Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein about a possible FBI spy in his campaign.
That would be a crime of enormous magnitude, the like of which I don't believe we've ever seen in American history.
What if there was...
When we finally find out the truth about this, Director Clapper and the rest of them are going to be wearing some orange suits.
Out of Baltimore, a massive manhunt intensifying this morning for a cop killer.
This is a bad time in the United States for law enforcement and the attacks that are occurring.
Gina becomes the first woman ever to lead the CIA.
It was a proud moment for CIA, for our workforce. The president delivered just an eloquent speech.
The hearing today on Capitol Hill will take a look at whether current immigration and border policies are working.
We have laws that are the worst anywhere in the world.
President Trump honoring NASCAR.
One thing I know about NASCAR, they do indeed, Brian, stand for the playing of the national anthem, right?
He's got the red, white, blue, flying high on the farm. Silver pride tattoo on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag. In the back it says USA.
What a lovely day. It is May 22, 2018, here in Studio F is in Fox and Friends. Thanks very much for making us part of your day.
It's the end of May, y'all.
We're getting closer.
Yeah, getting close. I guess Memorial Day straight ahead, and a lot of you have plans, but there's a lot going on, including it looks to do the president's got a real game plan now to fight back against what he thinks is, as you might have heard, the witch hunt or / the Mueller probe, and it is to go on the offensive. It started really Rudy Giuliani coming on this couch and others and saying, listen, I'm representing the president now. Let's bring this thing to an end. And then I see the vice president last night. Let's bring this thing to an end.
Look at that right there on the screen. Investigating the investigators.
That's
the
right.
president is asking now to investigate the FBI. Did you ever think that would happen? You would read that on the screen?
I know. When he sent out when he sent out the tweet that he was going to demand on Monday that the DOJ look into the possibility that there was a spy there. And then yesterday, he actually met with the guy who was the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and Christopher Wray, who runs the FBI. They're all in the room, and essentially, you got to wonder, did he say, so were you guys spying on me? They both agreed, along with the president, that the best way going forward would be to have the Inspector General of the Department of Justice look into whether or not there were any irregularities. Unfortunately, the Inspector General doesn't have subpoena power. Anybody who's left government, he can't call. If they want to show up, that's one thing. But Brennan, off limits. Comey, off limits. McCabe, off limits. So who's he going to talk to?
Devin Nunes has really made a name for himself. As you know, Congress has been asking the DOJ for more than a year now to hand over these documents, to hand over classified information. We want to know what you knew, what you handed over to the FISA courts. We want to know why you were surveilling someone within the Trump campaign. Well, now they're saying, the DOJ, they're going to hand over these secret documents.
Yeah, and by the way, something else they're doing, Senator Grassley also asked for documents, DOJ documents on Bruce Ohr and his connection. So Judge Andrew Napolitano was with us, and he said this is what probably came out of that meeting yesterday. Meanwhile, General Kelly's got a different mandate. He's in charge of overseeing that we get all the documents, as in the American people.
Will we get all the documents? That's the question.
I think if anyone's going to get it, I think General Kelly will. Judge Andrew Napolitano joined us earlier.
I don't believe DOJ will give everything, and I'll tell you why. Because under the law, the DOJ has the right to keep from everyone information that's presented to a grand jury or information that would expose a source when they're still in the midst of a criminal investigation. As ugly as this sounds, Mueller's investigation is a criminal investigation. The subject of that investigation is the President of the United States. Right. They would never tip their hand to the President or anybody about what they have and where they're going until the investigation is over. And they've either written a report about him, charged them with something, or exonerated them.
Right. And in the meantime, you've got the Republican lawmakers and their investigators up on Capitol Hill. They say, we want to know more about this confidential source. It's, you've been reading about this guy. His identity had not been confirmed by Fox News, but it sounds like he was a professor. The Republicans say we need more information about the informant, but the DOJ is saying disclosing his identity and confidential details would threaten the safety of other informants. And then you've got Michael Caputo, who used to be part of the Trump team. He says, okay, I've heard these stories about that one single informant. He was approached by a second one, and it spells big trouble from some very familiar names from the Obama administration. Listen to this.
But let me tell you something that I know for a fact. This informant, this person that they tried to plant into the campaign and even into the administration, if you believe Axios, he's not the only person that came at the campaign. And the FBI is not the only Obama agency that came at the campaign. I know because they came at me. And I'm looking for clearance from my attorney to reveal this to the public. This is just the beginning. And I'll tell you, when we finally find out the truth about this, Director Clapper and the rest of them are going to be wearing some orange suits.
And let me just tell you this. So they're figuring out, wait, if this professor and the way he did things with Papadopoulos, Carter Page, and Sam Clovis, if this is the way they did it, they're thinking back to themselves, who else came up to me that made no sense? Who came up to me at a seminar? Who came up to me at a bar or a restaurant? Who came up to me at the gym? And they're starting to go through their minds. For example, Mike Caputo apologized to Carter Page about things he thought and said about him now that more revelations have come forward. Carter Page kind of kept his powder dry, saying, I will wait because I didn't like when people jump to conclusions about me. So the question is, not only did Caputo think to himself, what do I have? But others are going to themselves, who else came to me? Now, Caputo is a perfect example of the danger of this special counsel. He has now had to sell his house. His family is, he had to refinance. He has to somehow find a way to pay his legal bills. Same thing with Michael Flynn, pay his legal bills. Everyone who gets a call from Mueller doesn't just go there and says what they know. They have to pay tens of thousands of dollars, and their lives are put in hyperspace because no one wants to hire somebody under investigation. When people say, let Mueller do his thing, there are people paying with their lives and sanity while he does his thing.
Well, you know, and the story is circulating that it sounds like by the first day of September, this could be all over, at which case maybe then we'll finally have some answers.
Well, that was vehemently denied by an official close to the Mueller probe in the New York Times today.
Okay, remember last week the president last week sat down for a roundtable discussion on sanctuary states, and he called MS-13 these awful gang members. He called them animals. Well, the left has gone crazy with this and said, you know, these are individuals, these are God's children, yada, yada, yada. Well, the White House is now tripling down on this. They have released a fact sheet on what you need to know about how violent they are. Listen to what the media is saying about it, though.
Is it appropriate for a president to ever call anyone an animal, even if they are sadistic gang members?
Yeah, I think that's something to watch out for. The history of political leaders dehumanizing opponents, even criminals, and using animal metaphors is a dangerous one. That is not something that we should accept from an American president.
I do think there's a serious problem with the president dehumanizing any group of people in the United States, even if they are hardened criminals.
Okay, so that is how some members of the mainstream media reacted to what the president had said. So yesterday they circulated, the White House did this fact sheet, and the title of it is What You Need to Know About the Violent Animals of MS-13. And Ainsley, you're absolutely right. They tripled down on it. It goes into, among other things, one MS-13 case in Maryland involved a gang member allegedly stabbing a man, decapitating him, dismembering the body, ripping his heart out. Goes on, talking essentially and confirming the White House assessment that some of these people are animals.
So the president also had a chance to sit down with some people who are doing their best to fight illegal immigration yesterday. And he also tripled down on what he wants with border security. Now, Congresswoman Diane Black has a good idea, crowdfunding the wall. But the president is actually losing a lot of patience. Listen.
We have laws that are the worst anywhere in the world as far as stopping people from coming in. But with that being said, we're down over 40% border crossings. And the only reason they do get through is because of our weak laws that really have been given to us by weak people in Congress. The Democrats have been horrible on border security. Frankly, it shouldn't be allowed, and many of them are standing there and sitting there and agreeing with me 100%.
So there he is with some of the Republican governors at dinner last night. He also said catch and release has got to end.
Doesn't this blow your mind that people are defending MS-13 gang members?
Yeah, or they're just saying, yeah, don't use that term, but they deserve that term.
But it seems to be that they're defending.
Yeah.
Defending them versus the victims. Their family members, those two families that were sitting with the president for the State of the Union address, They couldn't even recognize their little girls' bodies. They were so brutally attacked and killed by MS-13.
The White House has tripled down. They still call them
This was a campaign
animals.
promise, right?
And meanwhile, the president's going to be in Bethpage, Long Island, where MS-13, right around that area is where MS-13 has taken root. Hundreds of members are there. And he's going to be speaking at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So he is not stopping.
All right. Neither are we. We've got some headlines now with Jillian.
That's right. Good morning to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up now, starting with Texas Governor Greg Abbott taking on school shootings, holding the first of several roundtable discussions today on gun violence. The meeting focuses on finding solutions after the Santa Fe shooting. The Republican also scrapping a shotgun voucher giveaway on his website. School shooter 17-year-old Demetrios Pagortis used a shotgun to kill 10 people last week. His father blames his son's rampage on bullying. President Trump meeting with the South Korean president today to iron out details of the upcoming summit with North Korea. The pair remaining in close contact ahead of that June 12th meeting in Singapore. It comes as international reporters arrive in North Korea to witness the dismantling of the country's nuclear test site. It's viewed as a sign of goodwill from dictator Kim Jong-un. Voting is underway in 2 of the 4 southern states holding primaries today. In Georgia, a crowded Republican field for governor as 5 candidates seek the nomination. In Arkansas, incumbent Governor Asa Hutchinson is hoping to ride out his fresh endorsement from President Trump. He's facing a challenge from Jan Morgan. Polls have just opened in Georgia and Kentucky, still about 30 minutes to go in Arkansas. In Texas, runoff voting begins in less than an hour. President Trump welcomes the reigning NASCAR champion to the White House. The commander-in-chief praising Martin Truex Jr. and his sports commitment to patriotism.
I will tell you one thing I know about NASCAR. They do indeed, Brian, stand for the playing of the national anthem, right? They do indeed.
You know what that is. President Trump taking a dig at NFL players who take a knee to protest racial inequality. He's repeatedly criticized those athletes, even suggesting they be fired. I will send it back to you.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jillian.
All right, maybe it'll be over this year, and then no one will be kneeling. Okay. Good luck. Yeah.
Right.
All right, 12 minutes after the hour. House Republicans now calling for a second special counsel to investigate alleged misconduct of the FBI and DOJ. Ron DeSantis is one of them. He's here to explain how that'll help us next.
And it was the president's winning message.
We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. Drain the swamp.
Well, get this. Now the Democrats are trying to steal it as their campaign slogan. Seriously.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Introducing a resolution demanding a second special counsel investigate alleged misconduct at the FBI and the DOJ. Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis of Florida joins us now from Statuary Hall. Congressman, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Why do we need a second special counsel?
Because we need people to be held accountable for how the Hillary email investigation was conducted, and we're going to get a lot of information on that when the IG report lands, hopefully very soon. But we also need to get people to be held accountable for any FISA abuse that occurred. And then how did this investigation into the Trump campaign start, and was it on the up and up from the very beginning? There's always a lot of questions about that, and I don't think that the Justice Department is going to be able to investigate themselves. I think that they've resisted our inquiries here in Congress for long enough, and so it's time that we did have a special counsel.
Sure, and apparently the White House was okay with Rod Rosenstein's suggestion yesterday in the Oval Office that looking into any sort of irregularities, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice would do that. But Congressman, you know, an Inspector General for Department of Justice can only talk to people who work at the Department of Justice. People who have left government, off limits.
No subpoena power, and then obviously they're not a prosecutor, so if they uncover evidence of criminal misconduct, the Inspector General can't prosecute that. Right. And so it ends up being a lengthy process. Look, the IG can do it. I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Fine, right. Have them look at it. But we in the Congress need the information, and you also need the special counsel. One
of the things they agreed to yesterday was that Chief of Staff John Kelly would broker between the Department of Justice and the FBI and you folks in Congress these classified documents that you have been requesting for a very long time. And I know you feel that the Department of Justice has been stonewalling, but the Department of Justice says, well, we've been completely cooperating with them. Who's right?
Yeah. Come on, Steve. We've been doing this for months and months. They've been roadblock after roadblock. And I think, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, and I wrote the president a letter saying, look, Mr. President, let's just declassify this stuff. The American people deserve the truth. And I think his action was in response to that letter to say, look, we've got to get Congress this information. So I applaud the president for doing that. I think it's great for transparency. And I think John Kelly will be able to get these guys in line.
Were you surprised by that soundbite we played just about 10 minutes ago of Michael Caputo, who used to be a part of the campaign? He said that he can't talk about it publicly until he gets the clearance from his lawyer. But he said that he felt there was a second informant inside the Trump campaign at some point.
Well, we definitely need to get the answer to that question. One of the articles in the Washington Post recently that was leaked by people in DOJ and FBI said that there was at least one. And so even the people leaking raised the possibility that there may have been more than one. So we absolutely need to know who was involved with doing this, how many people, who was paid, were they directed by people at FBI to do this? How did it happen? And we just need all the facts on that.
Exit question, and it's a complicated one. This is a gigantic 10,000 piece puzzle we're looking at right here. Will the American people ultimately find out what happened?
I think so, and we're working hard to make sure that happens. But there's a lot of resistance, Steve, as you guys know, because you've been covering it for months now. We have indeed. All right. He's running for governor of the great state of Florida. He's currently a congressman. Ron DeSantis, thank you very much for joining us live. Thank you.
All right. 7:20 now here in New York City. We've seen counties rally against sanctuary cities. Now a whole state is looking to ban them. We're going to talk about that. Plus, the Democrats are rallying around a new message, and it might sound familiar. Their message is drain the swamp.
First zero, that's how many sanctuary cities will soon exist in Tennessee. Republican Governor Bill Haslam allowing a law that will require local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. It takes effect in January. Can you imagine that? To need for that? Next, 60. That's how many pounds of meth this canine named Rye found hidden inside a car during a traffic stop over in California. It was his first drug bust ever. He had extra kennel ration as a reward. And finally, 15 feet. That's the length of this great white shark that snuck up behind scuba divers in the Florida Keys. I'll pause. I think he said, oh my God, oh my God. The shark swimming just feet away from the drivers, exploring a shipwreck. No one was hurt. Also back from England unhurt, Ainsley.
Thank you, Brian. It is one of the president's most familiar rallying cries. Listen.
The American people will learn which politicians are part of the swamp and which politicians want to drain the swamp. We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. Drain the swamp.
Well, get this. Now Democrats are taking a cue from the president's playbook in a dramatic shift to their own message. Listen.
The swamp has never been more foul or more fetid than under this president.
Instead of delivering on his promise to drain the swamp, President Trump has become the swamp.
But will their new campaign slogan work? Here to debate this is RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. Thanks, ladies, for being with us.
Good morning and welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you so much. It was so fun. It's like watching Cinderella get married, and you're the stepsister. You kind of want to be Cinderella.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Totally, it was amazing.
But ladies, we're back to reality. Let's talk some politics. Get out of fairy tale land. So, Kayleigh, what'd you think about this when you heard that Democrats are going to use that same campaign slogan, and why are they doing it?
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. You know, this is a clear effort to take and co-opt the president's very powerful anti-elite, anti-Washington message. But the problem, Ainsley, is Democrats appear not to have looked into the mirror before they put this plan together. Because if they looked in the mirror, they would have seen a DNC that rigged the election for Hillary Clinton, a party full of swamp creatures like Tony Podesta, Loretta Lynch, Andy McCabe, the queen of the swamp, of course, Hillary Clinton. And in particular, to watch Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer stand there announcing a drain the swamp message as we're learning about the FBI, Obama's FBI, spying on the Trump campaign via the FISA process and via an informant. It's a little ironic, and perhaps Democrats should find a new message.
And she brings up a good point, Jessica. What do you think?
Well, I think actually that what happened here is President Trump took the Democrats' message because that's what we ran on in 2006 during the midterms. So actually it was ours first. I do think it's important for Democrats to be messaging on this, and I would add that it is part of a better deal message where we focused on the economy and health care last year and now are looking at anti-corruption. To Kayleigh's point, though, about having to look in the mirror, I think that is part and parcel of this and why focus on pay-for-play scandals, bribery, et cetera, what happened with Senator Menendez is important to say. Not only do we want to point out what's happening with Republicans, but we want to make sure that anything that's going on internally with us, things that we can change and how we can be better for the American people, is important to us. So I think it swings both ways there. But at this moment in time, when there's so many scandals in the Trump administration, when you look at Pruitt, for instance, when you look at what happened with Shulkin, Ben Carson, was a $21,000 table, $31,000 table, I don't know how much it cost. You need to look at exactly what's going on in the administration and also stay away from Russia. So this is a way to look at corruption without just saying Russia collusion, Russia collusion.
Kayleigh, what should, if you disagree with that slogan, you don't want them to use what Donald Trump ran on, what should the slogan be? Because if you look at some of the facts, Nancy Pelosi has said she wants to raise taxes. She wants open borders. She said that the gang members, our president's calling them animals. She says she believes in the dignity and worth of every person. So if you had to come up with a slogan for the Democrats or for Nancy Pelosi, who, like you said earlier, is the swamp, what would you say?
It would be reaching across the aisle, working with the president. This is a president elected by the American people. He got more votes in the Republican primary than any candidate in the history of our party. He has extraordinary support among the American people. Work with him. Make your slogan reach across the aisle. You've said you want infrastructure, Democrats. Well, President Trump gave you a plan. You said you want DACA. President Trump gave you a plan. Instead of obstructing, work with the president. That would be a powerful message.
Okay, Jessica, last word.
I actually don't mind that so much. They're definitely going to run on a better deal. But we do agree on that. And I think especially with so many Democrats up for re-election in states that President Trump won by 20, 30, 40 points in some cases, reaching across the aisle, like what Heidi Heitkamp has been doing, Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly, for instance, is going to be a core part of this. But emphasizing an anti-corruption agenda, I think, works for us. But at the end of the day, as I say, I think every week, the economy, healthcare, bread and butter issues, that's what will win it for us.
Ladies, thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Ainsley.
Ainsley.
See you next week. You're welcome. Remember when Madeleine Albright said this at a Hillary Clinton rally?
Just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
Wow, well, now it appears Hillary Clinton isn't following that advice. We'll explain next. And it's a police dash cam video like you've never seen before. These police officers, they can sing.
Never felt, never dreamed of. Something's changed. No, it's not the feeling I've had before. And no, it's much, much more. Are you feeling?
Fox News alert, a massive manhunt intensifying this morning for a cop killer.
Baltimore police sending out search dogs for several suspects after a veteran female cop is killed responding to a call.
Todd Pyro has been following the story from our newsroom. He's got the very latest breaking developments. Todd?
And Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, those suspects are considered armed and dangerous. Meantime, schools in the area opening on time this morning, but with a very heavy police presence expected after students were locked in their buildings well into the evening during day one of the manhunt. Now, according to the Baltimore County Police Chief, the female officer was responding to a possible burglary when witnesses reported hearing a pop, then watching her get run over by a Jeep.
Can confirm that this Jeep was involved in this crime. This was the suspicious vehicle that was called, and this was the vehicle that our suspects were either in or fleeing from shortly after the officer was injured.
The death of the officer set off a manhunt for the suspects early yesterday afternoon into the evening, as you can see on the video, as police searched the densely populated suburban neighborhoods in that area. An autopsy and review of unreleased body cam video will help determine how she died. But this marks the 26th officer killed on the job this year. The unidentified officer would have marked 4 years on the force in July. Steve Ainsley Bryan, back to you.
It is a terrible story. All right.
26 killed so far this year.
Yeah, as of
We're
September.
only in May.
Yeah, September 21st last year, 15 had
Unbelievable.
May 21st last year, and all of last year there were 35. So sadly, we're way ahead of this more.
Absolutely. Witnesses say they heard a pop and then they looked and they saw this particular officer being run over by the Jeep. The chief out there in Baltimore, the county police department, says this is a bad time to be a police officer and wearing the uniform. Listen.
It's terrible. We're seeing something in this country today that we've never seen before. We're seeing police officers assaulted. The number of officers who have died in the line of duty is up this year. The officers who've died at the hands of gunshots is up. And so we're telling everybody, be on your toes, don't be complacent. Work with each other. This is a bad time in the United States for law enforcement and the attacks that are occurring.
And think about it, what people who are thinking about getting to this business, maybe I should try something else. Maybe I'm not going to go to the academy. It's not going to worth the risk. Maybe there'll be family pressure not to do it or retire early.
Well, you have cops that are taking their uniforms off when they're finished with their shift because they're scared of being seen out in public. And then you have some states are trying to pass laws where if you kill a police officer, you either get the death penalty or you're behind bars for life.
Right. And then you've got police officers who are getting dressed at this moment and they're going to go to work and they're wondering, am I going to come home
out of
tonight?
their family, right?
I know it is tough. They are currently using aircraft. They are using dogs. They are trying to find the suspects in the Baltimore area. We'll keep you posted.
Meanwhile, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. We have a number of stories that we're following today. So let's get you caught up with this dramatic new body cam video showing police making heroic rescues in last year's deadly wildfires in California.
Get in my car, ma'am. Get in my car.
This is so terrifying.
It's like life and death right now, okay?
Get those people out of here.
Me Buckley, sir. I'm glad we found you. Your whole street's on fire right now.
Wow, in that video obtained by the San Jose Mercury News, you can see the officers going door to door in Santa Rosa, telling people they need to get out. Some, though, refused to leave. Hillary Clinton will not endorse actress Cynthia Nixon for New York governor, but according to her friend Madeleine Albright, isn't that wrong?
Just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
Albright making those comments at a Clinton campaign rally in 2016. You can see Hillary laughing at that comment as well. Instead of Nixon, Hillary Clinton will endorse the current governor, Democrat Andrew Cuomo. The primary is in September. It's the travel of the future. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk showing off a glimpse of the company's Crew Dragon ship, which could one day be used to transport humans into space. It's crazy. Musk posting this picture of the pod testing online. The Crew Dragon will then be put inside a silent chamber to make sure its electrical systems will work in space. Not only does he protect and serve, this police officer can also hit the high notes.
You gave me something new that I never felt, never dreamed of. Something's changed.
You just watch his partner, though. He's not even phased. This is great. That's Kansas City police officer Lamont Jackson serenading his partner, singing Love Ballad by the group LTD. His performance, and rightfully so, is now going viral.
I want the partner to start singing.
I know.
He was too.
He's
I
just
know.
driving
On the
along
chorus.
like it's
Let me just tell you
nothing
something.
new.
Who's ever worked in the dash cam camera? Good job. And the quality and depth of that. Was it
Absolutely.
HD TV off the camera? My goodness.
All right.
He has a beautiful voice.
He does.
We should book him on the
We
show.
should.
Yeah, good idea.
Summer concert series coming starts this Friday.
Does it
Actually.
really?
Yes,
We
it
got to
does.
get
You know who it
Jillian.
is?
We
Lee
could book
Greenwood.
him in the break.
Okay.
Live
Yes, I'll do that.
This Friday, live from the Intrepid, we're going to have Lee Greenwood. And Adam, we hope it's going to be nice and dry that day.
Yeah, things are going to be improving today. That unfortunately isn't going to be the case. Guys, we got a good crowd out here. We got folks from Tennessee. We had folks from Florida. We got folks from Nebraska, Texas. Good crowd out here today. Unfortunately, we have an umbrella, right? We do have an umbrella because rain is going to be on the way. Let's take a look at these maps, beginning with the temperatures where it is comfortable here on the eastern side of the country. Mid-60s for the most part. If you live out on the western side of the country, a little bit cooler. Spots down into the 40s, spots down into the 50s. But that rain, some rain across the country, but the largest system right now is approaching the northeast. We'll take a zoom in on it. we're going to see maybe a couple of inches of rain and at times heavy rain, especially getting closer to the lunchtime area. But the eastern half of the country has been soggy. 4 times you've been out here. Let's get back out here. 4 times you've been out here. No one's come and seen you so far.
First time. I'm so excited.
And I have. What's your name?
Lori Donnell.
And where are you from?
I'm from Texas, San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, Texas. I'm the one who showed up. I'm the one who said hi. I'm out here making fans.
Woo!
Making friends. Guys.
Good job, Adam.
Someone's
her
got
I
to do it.
said
Work in the
hello.
crowd.
I used to live there. San Antonio is awesome. You've been there, the Riverwalk.
Love that.
You were at the Alamo.
I was at the Alamo. Yeah, and they're trying to reclaim the footprint of the Alamo, pushing everything back.
That was a big campaign issue the last
for Bush, right?
Yeah, with George P. Meanwhile, 20 minutes before the top of the hour, this story. A Florida sheriff now taking action after the Santa Fe school shooting, vowing to put an armed officer on every public school campus this week. That sheriff is here to tell us how it will protect our kids.
And he lost both his legs while serving our nation overseas. Now Johnny Joey Jones is firing back at Six Flags after they threw him off a ride for not having real legs. He's here live to share. We've got some quick headlines for you on this Tuesday morning. The world-famous Thunderbirds arriving in Colorado Springs ahead of the Air Force Academy graduation. The team will perform at the end of tomorrow's ceremony over Falcon Stadium, and it is awesome. And freshmen at the Naval Academy complete a rite of passage. Over 1,000 young cadets completing the annual Herndon Climb in Annapolis. Students forming a human pyramid to cap a 21-foot monument that is slathered with slippery grease. They put a midshipman's cap at the top to mark the end of the year. So it's officially over. All right, Brian?
All right, 15 minutes before the top of the hour. Last week's horrific shooting in Texas prompting renewed calls for armed protection at school campuses. After all, it was the 16th school shooting. Like our next guest, a sheriff in Florida who's wasting no time in taking action, vowing to put an armed officer in every public school campus in his county this week. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd joined us now. Sheriff, you saw Santa Fe and you said, that's it, we're doing this week. How are you doing it?
Well, Brian, what we're doing is working with the police departments in the city and, of course, my deputies in the county. We had to change over 400 schedules in order to cover the next 4 days. We're covering an additional 106 schools, in addition to our SROs and SRDs that were already on campus. But you know what? The children are worth it.
Right, and it's up to you to take action. We don't know what Texas is going to do, but the big question is, do you have the money and resources to do this long term?
Well, we don't for sheriff's service or for sheriff's deputies, but let me explain what we did in the state of Florida. We passed a law. We said, hey, the talking's over. It's time for action. As a result, the legislators provided money for SROs and what we call safe school guardians. And as of August 13th of next year, for the first time in the history of the state of Florida, every public school campus will have well-trained armed security called a guardian or a school resource officer. And we're going to do everything that we can to protect the children.
And they are pretty trained. You were telling me in the break they're going to have over 100 hours of firearms training. What else are you doing for them?
Yeah, Brian, that's correct. In fact, when you look at the discipline of firearms, there's 25% more training for the guardian than to even be a certified police officer. And we're arming them and coaching them and teaching them. But at the end of the day, this is just one of many, many different layers.
So you're going to put in every school, and I think that's where we're heading. The question is, where's the money coming from? Florida has the money, the state's doing well, they have a surplus. What about some of the poorer states who also want their kids safe? What do you recommend they do? Is it federal funding?
Well, Brian, federal funding can always help, but you can take your existing resources on your campuses, give them detailed backgrounds, psychologicals, drug screens, ask for volunteers, and give them the same training for approximately $1,500 to $2,500 a piece. So you can do it inexpensively. You've got to quit talking and start acting. And that's what we're doing in Florida.
Sheriff, for me personally, we don't know the reason. Some say video games, some say psychotropic drugs, some say bullying is up. Whatever the reason is, we didn't wait when it came to airports. Why are we waiting so long when it comes to schools?
Do you know, I wish I could answer that. There are evil POSs all over this country, and they're planning the next active shooting right now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in this county, in our sheriff's office, in our police departments, if you show up on a campus, the talking's over. We're going to shoot you a lot. We're going to protect our children.
And we know this guy got in for 30 minutes. There was a Marine teacher there who knows how to use a firearm, but they're not allowed to have firearms in the school. Therefore, the guy was having target practice again with kids and students. But you're not waiting, and that's the message. You're training guardians to go out there. In the meantime, you got officers in there. Sheriff Grady Judd, thanks so much.
Brian, thank you so very much. We can't keep doing the same old things and expect different results.
It's ridiculous.
It's time for action.
Absolutely, and you're
it's
doing
crazy.
it. All right, and so do the people of Florida. Legislator did act. Meanwhile, he lost both his legs while serving our country overseas. Now, Johnny Joey Jones is firing back. He wanted to go on a ride at Six Flags. They threw him off the ride for not having, quote, real legs. He's here live to share his experience next. And President Trump unleashing capitalism, making America open for business. Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin joins us next hour to tell us how his state is thriving. After all, he's a business guy first. Six Flags Georgia is facing backlash after banning a WMPT veteran from this ride.
Johnny Joey Jones lost both of his legs in a bomb blast while he was serving all of us over in Afghanistan, tweeting, quote, "I just got kicked off a fully enclosed ride at Six Flags, just like one I've ridden at Universal Studios for not having, quote, real legs."
Here with more, retired U.S. Army Corps bomb technician Johnny Joey Jones. Johnny, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
We're doing okay. We're going to start with this. This is the official rule regarding the ride you were on, according to Six Flags Over Georgia. Riders must have one functioning arm and one functioning leg, absent of prosthetic devices. Apparently, the concern is the fact that you have two prosthetic legs.
No, absolutely. And to be honest, it's not this particular ride that I was asked to get off of that was the problem. It was how I was asked to get off the ride, and then once I left the ride, I researched the policy for every single ride in the park, and literally, I can't get on a tilt-a-whirl. I'm restricted to pretty much things that don't move because of my legs. And if you read the policy, for every ride, the verbiage is different. For one, it may say, no prosthetics allowed. For the next one, it may say a word like absent of prosthetics. For the next one, it might say at least one fully functioning leg, and the next one it may say something like all arms and legs attached. And so when you go down this policy, what you see is a severe absence of common sense and a big worry of liability. A lot of people have quoted to me a Marine who fell out of a roller coaster and died. 2010, the same year I got injured, ironically. But if you look at him, his physical body was completely different than mine. I have my legs all the way down to where my knees were. And what that means is any type of device like a lap bar is going to function as designed on me. My legs aren't going to stop that from working, but it's the fact they don't put the policy out there. Right. And he didn't say, you can't ride this ride, go talk to so-and-so. It was, you can't ride this ride. I said, why? He said, because you don't have real legs.
Six Flags released this statement. They said, we apologize to Mr. Jones for any inconvenience. However, to ensure safety, guests with certain disabilities are restricted from riding certain rides and attractions. Our policies are customized by ride and developed for the safety of all our guests. You know, the rules are the rules. Many people will say that. But I look at you. I know what you've done for our country. You lost your legs in Afghanistan. How can we ask you to go to war, but you can't ride, you know, a simple ride? What is your message for Six Flags? Do you want them to change the rules so that someone in your situation can ride the rides? What can you do with your legs?
Well, let me be specific here. The same rule that stopped me from getting on the roller coaster would have stopped me from getting on the tilt-a-whirl next to it that doesn't leave the ground. So my message to Six Flags is, I don't hate you. I don't want to tell people not to go there. I want you to apply the same type of care and thoughtfulness that Universal Studios, Disney, SeaWorld, and everywhere else I've gone and ridden roller coasters and done so safely. I want you to apply the same knowledge and expertise they applied, because they look for a way to accommodate me, not a way to restrict me just because of liability.
Right. And it's not just you. You're talking about other people for similar reasons, whether it happened in war or from birth or from cancer. They're going to go through the same thing. So that can be an important statement.
Absolutely. I'm happy to work with Six Flags. I'm happy to be their test dummy if they need it. But the fact is, the only prohibiting factor is if that lap bar or those shoulder harnesses can't function as designed.
Gotcha.
And